Hello. Today is Tuesday and it's a bit earlier than my usual timing. I finally got off work earlier today. Last week we were finishing up Tomek's story. Man, the game left us at a cliffhanger where we didn't know if Tomek actually met the girl that he met a year ago or not. Ah well, it's alright. Now we shall continue with Henriette's story. I wonder what will she see in Antarctica. I remember the last we were about to set sail. Yes, this one. Setting sail. Our passports were stamped, all our documents were signed, and the tanks had been filled with 300 to 320 gallons of fuel and 1.5 tons of water. We were ready. Go make them work a bit. Let's test their team spirit. I want to see how they handle taking orders from a pixie. Aye, aye, Captain, I said. I think she had a higher voice. At sea, we hauled in the loose mooring lines. We hauled in the loose mooring lines, and on the stern spring, we turned away from the jetty. There were no newbies on this trip, and the whole operation was smooth and quick. Rado was in the cockpit, navigating the strait that would lead us into the open ocean. I smiled, content. We were all on board, excited, talking, taking pictures. Soon we'll be underway, and the routine of watches would replace the chaos. I sipped my coffee and watched the sea. With the mainsail and jib up, we turned the engine off. We turned the engine off. Silence. Just the wind in the ropes, the water slapping the hull, and our hushed conversations. Barren islands disappeared behind us. It was time to start my watch. A sudden jolt of the boat threw me against the wall. I cursed under my breath, then started to put on layer after layer. My life jacket was the last thing to go on, but as always, it felt odd, like I was putting a corset over a raincoat. I went on deck. The first night, the boat was picking up speed, restless, listing to port. The wind was stronger. The swell was starting to build. and the waves were crashing against the bow in a hypnotic rhythm. Gust after gust filled the sails, and the vessel started to pitch and heave in the steeper waves. I could feel the pressure of the wind, its power propelling us forward, the ropes tightening all around me. My breathing seemed to synchronize with the roar of the ocean. I could feel my sea fever waking from its slumber. The night was dark and moonless. I smiled. On the sea again. The watch was 4 hours. 2 people. 1 hour inside to warm up, make a hot beverage, write down the log. 1 hour outside behind the wheel, hook to the mast, keeping the course steady. We talk a lot about life, death, and everything in between. At night, you sail blindly, putting your trust in the instruments. With my watch over, I could finally rest. On the open sea, the yacht started rocking harder. I grinned, facing the waves. The yacht was going 6 knots. Not bad. It was our galley watch. The crew were getting hungry. We prepared mushroom and goat cheese risotto. It was a hit. You know, I thought about going to Antarctica once before, said Chris. But I got cold feet, he laughed. Matt groaned. Henry, why are you encouraging him? To blow off steam, I said. Lawyers are normally way too serious. Cooking on a rocking boat was a challenge. Cooking on a rocking boat was a challenge. Not my favorite thing in the world. With 7 people on board, there was always something to do. This part of my watch was over. Now it was time to take the helm. It was pitch black out there, and scanning the sea for dangers seemed like an impossible task. I felt good. Freezing my ass off. Nice weather. Nice weather. Brisk, isn't it? The question puffed into the air and hung there. I looked at Chris, considering how to reply. It was brisk 10 degrees ago. Now it's just cold. Chris rubbed his hands. So, are you staying up here? Are you insane? I laughed. I need to get warm. I miss all the spectacular views? Wuss. Oh, wuss. It was chilly. For the first time, I looked up at the sky. Unfamiliar southern constellations twinkled above us. I shall go to sleep. Her fatigue is catching up. Dolphins! I heard from above. I rush on deck to watch, remembering to clip on in the process. I was tired to the bone. I took off my boots, trousers, gloves, insulated jacket, and sweater, and hid in my sleeping bag in my merino wool underwear. A stronger wave hit the boat, and I woke up for a moment. I lay there, my eyes wide open. The rest of the crew went on with their jobs while I slept. Steep, rugged mountains loom ahead of us, menacing and magnetic in equal measure. We look at the unwelcoming shores, the cliffs, and the narrow mouths of the forts. We could feel the force of the waves crashing against the helpless rocks. Isla de los Estados. I woke up in the morning and put on my merino gear, socks, thermal underwear, sweatshirt. I once heard that alpaca wool provided better insulation, but there was no way to weave in as finely as merino wool. I went to the galley and started to prepare breakfast for the rest of the crew. While I was beating the eggs, I thought about Aran knitwear. Every fishing family had its own distinctive set of cables on the sweaters so they could identify the bodies of the drowned when the sea finally released them to the shore. Old stories from old times, before GPS. Isla de los Estados was not a welcoming island. The mountains, tall and sharp, were covered in dry grass, and the waters around the island were known to be treacherous. There used to be a prison there, and then a seal processing factory. But the elements ultimately prevailed. Now, there was a military base in Puerto Pari, where we were moored. There were some buildings in the base, 4 servicemen, a cat, and a dog. We gave the soldiers some wine and cake. They gave us coffee. I thought about the tradition of gift giving and reciprocity, the most universal sign of peace and goodwill among humans. We wanted to see more of the island, so we hiked to a nearby waterfall. It boomed through the landscape as we approached the gallons upon gallons of cold water crashing down from a vertical slab of rock. I stood there, mesmerized by its raw beauty. It was sublime. Just the ocean, the rocks, and a source of pure, chilled fresh water. The southern hemisphere's waterfalls had something surreal about them. We returned to the yacht, made some coffee, ate some of the banana bread Chris had baked, talked for a bit, and went to sleep. She's not that tired. I was woken up in the middle of the night by the wind howling through the ropes. I got dressed and went up on deck, only to find Rado at the helm. "Look up," he greeted me. I look up. Clouds race again across the sky. "Wow," I said. "It must be 60 knots up there. Wouldn't you say?" "Yup," he agreed. "And the whirly walls will drop down on us any sucker now. The local winds," he explained. "They drop down straight into the fjords and blow from every direction. It's a lot of fun." That it was. My teeth rattled every time the yacht was shaken by the next billowing blast of air. Isla de los Estados, cool morning. In the morning, Chris shook my arm. "Do you want to build a snowman?" he asked. It was bloody cold outside. Everything, the deck, the sails, the rigging, was covered in either snow or ice. The bases dog barked happily, rolling in the snow. The rising sun lit everything in a pink and purple hue. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever fucking seen. Chris gaps. "Let's build a snowman," I said. We look at each other and clink our cups of coffee. Welcome to the Antarctic. The snow was falling faster than we could remove it. We were underway again the next morning. At sea, we sailed from Puerto Pari, leaving the rugged, snow-covered peaks of Isla de los Estados behind. Going west, we were headed toward the infamous Le Mar Strait. My Gailey watch was beginning. There were strong currents in the strait, pushing the water from north to south and back again. A yacht like ours could easily get caught in one and smash against the rocky shore. So far, so good. If we ran downwind, we had a fair chance of passing the worst parts with the help of the northern current. Even so, the water and the wind could change at any moment. I washed all the dishes. Time for an evening meal. We served pancakes. My mind started to wander. I stifled a yawn. "It's not going to get any better," said Chris. I knew I was going to stay awake too long. Keep watch, cook, steer, close my eyes for a millisecond, and get colder, sorer, and sleepier. That's the stuff," I smiled. "Awesome." This part of my watch was over. Now it was time to take the helm. We were sailing at 9 knots, the yacht sliding effortlessly across the sea. The wind was blowing against the current. The waves were climbing higher with every minute. And even with the engine on full, we weren't going anywhere. It was a struggle not to be pushed back by the rising seas. 6 hours into the storm. "Clap the fuck on now!" My hand shot up to the jackstay. Christ on a fucking bite, I saw under my breath. My heart was pounding in my chest. I've never made that mistake before. Why now? I retraced my steps in my mind. I'd gone up on deck after I felt the wind hit. The boat shook and heaved, and then I felt her groan as if she were a living creature. We'd been stuck at the mouth of the Beagle Channel for the past 6 hours, and now a storm was gathering. I was enjoying every second of it. Chris was already on deck with Fabio and Matt from the previous watch. We reefed and secured the sails, soaked to the bone by spray and sweat. Rado stayed at the wheel and tried to keep the boat as steady as possible. I looked at the compass. He sighed. Yeah, we're stuck. And we'll be stuck till morning, he said. I made some quick calculations in my head. Go to sleep, he said. I did what he told me and got into my sleeping bag. I woke up 4 hours later. I made some coffee and poked my head into the pilot house. Rado was still at the helm. Clip on, he said automatically. Mind the gap, I answered. We started laughing. Keep her steady, he said before going down. It's gonna get nastier. Watch for waves coming from the sides and make sure you're clipped on properly. If you need help, yell. Aye, aye, Captain, I said and went on deck. It was pitch black and the wind made it almost impossible to breathe. The boat climbed the waves and then slammed into their dark, terrifying throes. Wave to starboard! Chris yelled. 3 seconds later, I was still spitting out seawater that found its way over my sailing jacket. I heard, wave to port! I fucking love this place! I yelled back. Don't you? Hell yeah! It's the best fucking party in the universe! I should order some pizza and roll a joint! Every 30 minutes, we changed who was at the wheel. Rado says 2 people are sick as dogs. Can you manage for 2 more hours? Yelled Chris somewhere in the middle of our 5th hour. Of course I can! Even though I was tired, I was still able to hold the wheel. The boat's battle with the storm ran through every fiber of my being, as though the hull were my bones and the sails and rigging were my muscles and tendons. I tried to move my shoulders to release the tightness. I heard a hiss and a roar, and I spun to my right. There it was, steeper, faster, and coming from an angle I hadn't expected. Chris, hold on! I hollered as the waves slammed into the starboard stern. My legs were swept from under me, and for a second I was in mid-air, clinging onto the wheel for dear life. The boat groaned and rolled violently to port, only to swing back and correct itself, allowing me to regain my footing. I could feel the adrenaline tingling through my whole body, and suddenly I felt like throwing up. I took one deep breath and then another, and I managed to hold it back. despite all the seawater in my mouth. An hour later, I crawled into my sleeping bag and fell asleep. I dream of krakens pulling our boat into the deep. Seasickness plagued me for the rest of the storm. 24 hours later, we finally sailed into the calm, steady waters of the Beagle Channel. The sun was rising, and the snow on the mountains gleamed like kaleidoscopic disco glitter. Phew. The morning was quiet. The sea had calmed. The current had changed. The wind was getting more favorable, and we were on track again. It was time to get the hell out of there. It was time to get the hell out of there. We finally managed to hide behind Isla Nuva and relax a bit. It was time to start my watch. Jib number 1 went up. Second reef in the mainsail, first reef in the mizzensail, and we were off. Soon, the wind slowed to 20 knots, and we could shake out the sails. We radioed the Argentinian and Chilean posts to let them know we were there, and we entered the channel, keeping the northern Argentina bank. My watch was over. We passed a penguin colony. They made such funny noises. We all gathered in the galley for some candy, coffee, and a bit of whiskey. We'll be passing Estancia Harberton to starboard and Puerto Williams to port a little later. Apart from that, the coastline was almost empty. I made coffee and reached for my book. It was our watch. I could see Ushuaia with its snow-capped mountains and glacial valleys in the background. The port and 2 marinas opening their arms to us. New faces. When we finally moored at the Efesine Marina, I was rather relieved. The storm had taken its toll on me. Fucking hell, I'm getting old, I said. Rado chuckled.
No, kid, you're not. I know you're overreacting. Gave you any responsibility and you stiffen up. Tell me.
His smile broadened.
Were you constantly Were you constantly thinking that you had to make sure everybody was safe?
I sighed with relief. How did you know?
Experience. Besides, that's what thrusts are for. Overactive, overachieving, overprotective. The captain can rest when someone like that's around.
Overactive, overachieving, overprotective. That summed me up pretty well. Great qualities for a first, and great qualities for a lawyer as well. If only it helped with the rest of my life.
I'm taking a taxi to the prefecture to sign the papers.
Rado patted me on the shoulder.
Find the 2 newbies and make sure everybody gets there in an hour, okay?
I stood on deck and breathed the air. It was crystal clear, sunny, and the view was glorious. Seals were playing in the water. I saw rabbits running around in the grass. And there were birds of prey resting on the hull of a beach sheep. Beach ship. I sighed and smiled. I was at peace. 2 men approached the boat. Average height, average build, nondescript features, nothing special. And yet, I suddenly felt my serenity evaporate.
You were supposed to be here 2 days ago,
snapped one of them.
What took you so long?
Well, hello to you too, I replied. Fuck it, I thought. Like I hadn't met enough people like this in the courtroom already. He was clearly pissed. The other one, who stood some distance away, rolled his eyes and shrugged. Get your stuff on board and don't get too comfy, I said. We need to be in town in 20 minutes.
And who are you to tell me what to do?
I heard muffled snorts behind me. The crew had piled on deck and was clearly enjoying the show. If you need to know, I'm the first officer, I answered, hoping that would put an end to the farce. I should have known better. He looked at me, incredulous.
Bullshit,
he said.
The first on this ship is Henry Taylor. You don't look like a Henry to me.
Go get him, Henry, I heard Chris whisper behind my back. I started to laugh. If I had a penny for every time I heard that. Bikes and beer. We went out in the evening, first to tell Elvira for crabs and wine, and then Chris, Fabio, Matt, and I decided to stop for a beer in an Irish pub called Dublin. I like Ushuaia. It looked like a small tourist trap in the mountains. It even had a hard rock cafe and a Triumph showroom. My mom loved Triumphs. I sighed, thinking about her. It was her dream to come to the Antarctic Circle. She was mad about polar expeditions and read me books about Scott and Amundsen before bedtime. I never really understood why they couldn't go together. Neither could my mom. She would roll her eyes when I asked her why not and said one word, men. The pub was crowded, so we sat at the bar. I ordered a round of pints and we talked about our lives and experiences at sea. Fabio was a journalist from Spain, and Matt used to be a stockbroker in the city, but now ran a diving school in Cornwall. Let's see. I talked with Matt about adrenaline-filled professional life in London, and he teased me mercilessly about when I finally break and quit. I teased him that he didn't have the backbone to stay in a proper job. We drank our beers and decided to find another pub. The night was young. Shopping spree. What a beautiful little town. I woke up after 4 hours with a splitting headache and a distinct feeling of something having crawled into my mouth and died. I sighed. The day ahead of me was to going be long and filled with shopping for food and supplies. The list was 20 pages long. I checked the list of medicine and drugs twice. Better safe than sorry. Then I made a big red loop around hygienic products. I was absolutely certain that my period would come at the least convenient moment.
You remember that Chris isn't eating meat this month?
Asked Rado.
And Much is allergic to gluten.
Why was I not surprised? I took 2 of the crew with me in a taxi to town. One of them was Matt, who was as hungover as me, and the other was David, the newbie from the day before. And as I suspected, he turned out to be a genuine pain in the ass. Shopping for a 5-week Antarctic trip is no mean feat. You need to keep in mind that there are no shops in Antarctic, and if you don't buy something when you have the chance, you won't have it when you need it. We had 2 supermarkets to choose from. Carrefour was closer, but Anonyma was better supplied. Anonyma. I decided to go Anonyma straight away.
What about Carrefour? Asked David.
I ignored him. If you want to feed 9 people for 5 weeks, you need a ton of food. Literally. You need to keep in mind that the voyage is not a pleasure cruise, but hard work in extreme temperatures. So we all needed more calories than usual and more protein to help regenerate our muscles. Then there was the fruit and veggies dilemma. We needed them to avoid scurvy, but they rot quickly. In Antarctic? Last but not least was the problem of bread. We could either buy one sliced, pre-packed and tasteless, or the double-baked bread, or enough flour and yeast to bake our own. Chris had brought his famous sourdough starter with him. Why did you take that meat? Asked David.
This one's better.
How do you know?
I did my research before I came here,
he announced.
I see you didn't.
The same happened with carrots, potatoes, cornstarch, and peanut butter. After he questioned my choice of eggs, I snapped. Go and wait for us outside, now.
You can't.
Yes, I can. Out, now. David turned on his heel and left. Matt shook his head. I know, I shouldn't have. You shouldn't.
You shouldn't, but he's a nuisance.
Let's not talk about it. Ushai's farewell gift was sun and a favorable wind pushing us toward Puerto Williams. The Beagle Channel was clear and as smooth as a sheet of glass. The deep water was a peculiar shade of navy blue. I sighed, feeling content. There were there were wild horses galloping along the shore, and the snow on the mountain tops made the fact that we were heading into the Antarctic hit home.
I've thought of buying a house here, said David wistfully.
He was wearing me down. Not wanting to waste any more energy, I went and hid in my cabin. The light here was sublime. I smiled to myself. We were too big to park in the marina, so we moored by an old fish cutter that served as the harbor office, bathroom, and shared lounge. Puerto Williams, the southernmost marina in the world, looked like a cross between a ski resort and a military base. We moored and went through the formalities before heading into the Antarctic. Chris was getting hype.
Did you know that it's the last free continent? No countries, no governments, no stupid fights over imaginary communities. Just ice and penguins. Penguins don't care. Penguins are just happy being penguins.
There were people everywhere, including other crews with their own certified expedition leaders. It was a multinational bunch. Czechs, Aussies, Germans, Italians, Americans, stray dogs, and Brits. For a moment, I imagined myself working in an outpost like that, getting old slowly. My only concern, the safety of the vast cold emptiness of the Antarctic. I like that. A walk in the park. Should we refill now? I asked Rado when we were finally clear of the sanitary offices.
No, we can do it tomorrow before dawn and then go straight south. You want to do it?
Sure, no problem, I answered automatically. I did it before. It was a walk in the park with this beauty. It wasn't a walk in the park. I'd never seen so much kelp in one place. It was like swimming in a spinach soup.
As long as you keep it out of the propeller, we'll be fine.
Rado was unfazed. I was totally up to this. Are you sure she's up to this? Said David loudly sometime later. It's taking forever. Let me take a big breath. I took a deep breath and focused on the task at hand. Why should I worry about an arrogant newbie? The sea would teach him a lesson pretty soon. I made it look easy and effortless. Sailing to the Horn. This time, we sailed near the southern Chilean shore of the channel, passing another penguin-colonized island. The Argentinian Estancia Harbaton was the port. My watch was beginning. The light was sublime. We could almost see the air sweep past us in a magnificent arc, filling our sails and building into clouds over our heads. The channel got wider as we rounded Isla Navarino and passed Puerto Toro. They served great crab there. Maybe next time. We passed Isla Picton and Isla Lenoc and came up a shipwreck that was molded in beautiful, rich colors. The clouds drifted like poplar seeds across the ocean of stars overhead. The sound of the waves lulled me to sleep. The yacht glided through the night and I slept deeply. Cape Horn, the legendary cauldron of the devil, the worst place on earth, the destroyer of ships, and eater of souls, was clearly visible. The rock rose from the calm, placid, almost mirror-like water. The lighthouse on top of it was beautiful. The Horn at noon. Rado decided to anchor for a while.
If you want to, you can go ashore, meet the lighthouse keeper and his family, and get the stamps from Cape Horn in your passports, he said.
I decided to go. The lighthouse keeper and his wife were beyond excited to talk to some humans. They showed us around and told us a little about the history of Cape Horn. I sat on the grass and looked southward. Somewhere there, hidden in the middle of the ocean, Antarctica awaited. I could feel my sea fever rising, like a tiny, impatient creature ready to leap out of its cage. I bought some souvenirs for my husband to prove to him that I'd really been there. We ate dinner prepared by David. One thing was for sure, the guy knew how to cook his steaks.
I could live here for a year,
said Matt out of nowhere. We all fell silent.
Could you?
March wasn't sure. I'd probably go nuts of the money.
Well, it's alluring,
said Matt. Leaving the world behind for a year?
No, keeping the light.
I couldn't, said Chris. I'll bore myself to death. Henry? I couldn't stay in one place for a year, I answered before I really thought about it. If I had to look at the sea but couldn't actually sail out, that's not for me. We found the wind soon after that. Not northwesterly.
Good wind, said Rado. This is our ticket into the Antarctic.
I think I'll stop here for tonight before they sail out. It was quite interesting. This story is more, let's see, adventurous than the previous two. One was like walking around in Thailand. Second one was traveling around Europe. And now the third one, Antarctic. The challenges of traveling on the yacht, the waves, the sea. It was pretty interesting to read about the story. I hope everyone have a good night, and tomorrow is the 1st of May, It's a holiday. Hope everyone have a happy holiday. See you next week. Good night. Bye.